Hello, it's Walter, and today we're going to be talking about a handful of different things. um, and what prompted this is because a couple people that I really care about are putting together a go bag or a bug out bag in case there's some type of disaster or something that you could throw it in their vehicle or, you know, use it, or if they happen to be traveling, they could throw it in their vehicle and have it if they're going cross country to visit somebody, and then if something happens, disaster or some other situation where they need to survive or at least be able to make their life a little more comfortable in that situation, they have some equipment with them, some food, water, a few essentials that are needed for life. And what kind of prompted this video is they had wanted to get a survival knife, so they bought this at Harbor Freight. It's their Harbor Freight survival knife, and I think it's like $9, $10 or something. Um, and if you have a coupon, you can even get it cheaper. But it's not anything I would actually purchase or recommend to anybody, um, unless you just want something to play around with and beat on. But I wouldn't really recommend it, hardly even for that. Um, I read reviews and some people were talking about it like it's a great knife, and I doubt they're really using it all that much. There's a lot of things that are wrong with it. I don't know what type of metal is in the blade or how tough it is. Um, the two people wanted me to sharpen this. It's fairly sharp, and I could get it razor sharp where it would take the hair off your arm, but it does a little bit. But I could get it even sharper because I'm pretty good with that kind of stuff. But the thing is, looking at the first thing that I don't like about it is this sheath. It's just a piece of junk, but what do you expect for $10? But the issue is, if someone doesn't realize it and they're carrying this around, just bending the sheath like that, you could already see the blade point sticking through the sheath. And maybe you could see that. It's right there. And that's just bending this a little bit over that. So if you're wearing this sheath and you have this, on your strap, on your pack, or on your hip, or wherever, or it's even in your pack, and you happen to fall and this gets wedged just right, it's going to rip right through this and into your body. The other issue is the little survival kit in here is, it's got like 5 cheapo matches and, a couple fish hooks and fish line, a little safety pin. You can put together a little better survival kit and put it into a little, like, Altoids tin or a pill bottle, with some duct tape on it or something would be useful. And that's a lot of times why people will buy this. They'll think they can, it's got their survival kit stored in here, and then they figure because of these holes, they can mount this on a stick and make a spear. But this thing would probably break the first time you used it. And that were some of the reviews I've read on it, and that's what people were saying right out of the box, so to speak, when they went to use this, it broke, which doesn't surprise me. Number one, this is made out of some type of like aluminum alloy of some sort, I'm guessing. It's got a little set screw in here to help tighten your blade up in here. And the blade only comes down to this far, where this first knurling section ends. So if you were actually using this thing and beating on it, chances are it's going to break. And the other thing is if this set screw loosens up, you're supposed to tighten it up to make the blade more secure in here. But unless you have a little Allen wrench that you store in a handle, or you lose it, how are you going to tighten it up? And the other thing is this metal's really hard compared to this, so you're going to have to crank that down pretty tight, which will cause this to strip out. So again, it's worthless. The other thing with this is a lot of times people like a bigger knife because they don't want to carry a hatchet or something, and if they're processing bigger pieces of wood into smaller pieces of wood, they'll do what's called batoning. And so you take a chunk of wood, yay long, and you put your blade on it, and then you hit this with another piece of wood to pound it through the wood to split the other chunk. And I'm not going to demonstrate that right here in my backyard or anything. You can find examples of that if you want online. And the issue with that is with these type of knives with these little saw blades in the back, is you're batoning, this is going to really chew up the chunk of wood you're using the batoning, and it's apt to kind of get stuck on here. So you'd be better off with a nice flat spot here, a nice flat edge. The other thing is these type of knives never never have a kerf to them. Um, I don't know if you can see that. This is just perfectly smooth across here, and there's a reason for that. Number one is if this had a curved edge on it, where the teeth of the saw blade actually splay out instead of being in line, what happens is every time you would put this into your sheath, it goes in pretty easily, but if this had a kerf, it would really catch on your sheath and wear it out really fast. Give you an example. This is a saw blade that has a kerf on it, and you might be able to see that, how the teeth actually splay out from the blade. So this cuts a wider groove, so then the rest of your blade can go through there really smooth as you're sawing. I did saw with this, and you get about this deep, maybe a ½ inch, and this starts grabbing on the wooden binding. So if you wanted to saw with it, you'd have to be going like this back and forth to create a bigger groove, which isn't too efficient. Getting back to the sheath, see if they take a knife, a survival knife with a saw edge, and they actually put a kerf to it every time you put your blade into your sheath. When you pulled it out, see, it's catching. It'd be really hard to pull your knife out to get it out quickly if you needed to, and then it's going to just tear your sheath up, which you can kind of see that already. Just doing that a little bit has kind of chewed that up. So that's the reason. The other reason why these sawback knives and machetes to me are worthless. I wouldn't even waste my money on something like that. So sometimes the issue is people think they're better off with a multi-purpose tool because it saves weight, but in reality sometimes a little bit of extra weight in the proper equipment or tools is can mean your life in certain situations, and it could be worth its weight in gold, basically, you might say. To give you a case in point, here I have a multi-tool, and I've used this thing quite a bit. It's pretty handy. This is just an inexpensive one I got from Target. It's a Gerber. But one of the things in this little tool is it's got a little Phillips head. But it's not a Phillips head. I mean, in a pinch, you could get out a Phillips screw with this thing, but it doesn't work very well. This little cheapo, $15, $17 Victorinox has a Phillips driver on it, and that's a real proper Phillips screwdriver. This thing will outscrew this thing and take a screw out and beat this hands down any day of the week, because this is just a better screwdriver. See, there's a real Phillips screwdriver compared to this. That's a problem with many multi-tools, is they make compromises in some areas. It's like even the little saw blade in here that this has, you can saw little pieces of wood like that, and it's good for making little notches, but it doesn't really have a curve. But the way they designed this one is this blade kind of scallops in. It's hollowed out a little bit, so this will cut all the way through something a little bit easier, but it's pretty small. Biggest boon of using this is it's got a couple blades on it, a serrated blade, it's got a can opener and stuff, and the biggest thing, nicest thing of this is the pair of pliers on it and a little pair of cutters that it comes with. But in many instances, just a little multi-tool like this will work, because it's got a can opener, a couple of screwdrivers, toothpick, tweezers. I put a little strap on here that I run through my belt, and this drops in my pocket, so there's no way I could lose this, and I always have this on me pretty much whenever I'm out and about. Even if I have another knife, that always goes with me, and I've used it quite a bit. And the blade size is really nice for food, if you need to cut food, string, rope, cardboard, paper, whatever the case might be. And these blades you can get really sharp. So it's a good little tool. And actually, I'd rather see somebody carry something like this and this and a machete than this thing, because these tools have more specific purposes and they're going to work way better than this will. Some people just don't think about that. They think, well, I'm saving weight. And the issue with the saving weight thing is a lot of people that are talking like that and think, well, ounces count and stuff. Well, number one, are you out hiking and practicing walking with a pack so your body adjusts and adapts to the weight that you need to carry especially an emergency. Uh, I'm not going to name names, but I know one gentleman um, who's related to the family who has a bug out bag, and he's got it packed to the gills with a handgun and ammo and all this stuff that he doesn't need, and stuff hanging off his pack all over the place, which is just ridiculous, but he thinks that's the way you do it. And the first time he put his pack on, it was so heavy he fell over backwards. Now he's a middle-aged man. He's probably like 5'9", 5'10", weighs maybe 150 pounds. But first time he put his pack on, he lost his balance and fell over, and he's laughing about it. And I'm thinking, how in the world are you going to put that on if you have to walk a few miles and carry it? You're going to be dying if you don't have a heart attack, because he does no other type of, he does no training whatsoever physically. And I don't even think most of the stuff he has in his pack he even know how to use. But he's got it in his mind he has to have these things, and that he can use it to survive, he and his wife. So number one, if you're concerned about weight, buy higher quality tools that will last, and especially if you think your life's going to depend on it at some point, don't cheap out too much. If you don't have much money, you can get some inexpensive things, but you can still get pretty high quality stuff that will work extremely well in a lot of situations. So you don't have to spend $200-300 on a knife. You can get, just a couple basic things that will cover what you need, probably for $30, $50. The other issue I have with that is sometimes people will talk about that, trying to save weight. And you'll see that sometimes, like I've ridden motorcycles off and on all my life. I have my motorcycle endorsement. I've taken a safety foundation class in motorcycling, and I've ridden in the dirt and on the street and ripped around in the dirt. And it's funny to me sometimes because people will talk about the bikes, like dirt bikes, or what they call dual purpose bikes or dual sport bikes. What we used to call years ago like an enduro that was street legal, but it's kind of like a street legal dirt bike, but it's kind of compromised between the two. But those bikes will go anywhere. But a lot of times what it comes down to isn't so much the bike, but the skill of the rider. And it's the same with a lot of tools. Some tools are just totally pretty much worthless, though if I had to use this, I could probably make it work better than someone else who did not have the skills to use this properly and didn't know how to use it. And it's the same with the training equipment and the training environment. Uh, so getting back to that point of the motorcycles, is these people will be talking about new motorcycles that come out. Oh, I'd love this motorcycle if it weighed less. It doesn't have enough power for the weight. Make it weigh less. And then the funny thing is when you look at a lot of these guys, they might be 5'9" and they weigh 200 pounds, or they're 6'2" and they weigh, 280 pounds, and it's not because they're in awesome shape and condition, because they're packing around a lot of extra body weight. And the same with a lot of people when it comes to survival equipment and their go bags and all this stuff. They think they're going to carry this stuff around, pack it on the back, so they're trying to get a multi-purpose tool that serves several functions so they can have less weight in their pack. Where the issue is well, buy better equipment. Sometimes you're better off bringing 2 or 3 pairs of equipment with you versus one thing that's supposed to do everything. And the reason being because these people really, instead of looking at their pack so much and trying to get it lighter and lighter and lighter, unless you're in great condition and shape, you need to think about getting in better condition and losing some body weight. A lot of people that I've met and talked to about these things probably could stand to lose, 30, 40, 50 pounds. And they're worried about 6 ounces in their backpack or their bug out bag. Their thinking is skewed. They need to change that. So, case in point, getting back to this so-called survival knife, you'd be better off buying a high-quality compass, and it wouldn't set you back that much. And buying like a more medium-sized or smaller knife. The issue with this thing too is you look at this blade and what you're going to try to cut with it compared to this. And I measured this. This is like 3 1/4, and this is like 6 5/8. So it's slightly over twice the length of this cutting edge. This is like $9-10. You get a little cheaper with a coupon. This is like $6 at Harbor Freight. And it's a nice little tool. It cuts really good. I tried it. I'm not going to demo it right now. The nice thing about it is this nut is kind of locked in here. by the plastic, and it's got a little Phillips flat blade slotted screw in here. So if you have an extra blade, you can bring an extra blade with you that doesn't weigh anything, and you can replace the blade in this. It's nice because it locks into position. When you unlock it, it folds up into the handle where the teeth are protected and won't catch on things, and it locks shut. And then if you didn't have a sheath for it, a really simple way is just take an old tube sock, drop it in a tube sock, and that'll keep it from rubbing on other things in your pack. But it's actually a pretty nice little saw for the price. And if someone was handy, it wouldn't take much to make a handle out of wood and take these components and transfer them over if that's something a person wanted to do because they think this handle is too cheap. But if you're careful, it'll probably hold up pretty good. So if a person bought something like this and then bought themselves a machete and just a small knife, something like this, they would be far better equipped and be able to do way more, much more efficiently and effectively, saving energy and time than buying something like this multi-purpose knife piece of junk. So when you're doing things like that and you're thinking about setting up, maybe a bug out bag, or I refer a lot of things to training because it's what I do, is think about the equipment you buy for your gym, your home gym, or another gym. Is some things can work very good for a multitude of purposes, but other things you're better off buying a more specific item that's going to hold up way better, last way longer. And you have to look at it like it is an investment. Like a lot of the equipment that I have for my little backyard gym, I've had for 20, 30 years, and it's been a good investment. Like my power rack, I built my power rack for like $70, $80 years ago, like in 89 or 90. So figure out how old that is, but I still have it, and I use it as a workbench, and I use it for all types of things, and I use it for exercising a lot too. So it's been a great tool. I've actually even used it to put a motorcycle on, like a little lift to work on a motorcycle, more than once. So just something to keep in mind. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be showing you how I'm modifying the machete to actually save some weight but still have a great tool.